Dear respected guests and colleagues, welcome to Words of Inspiration. This video is titled Islamic Marriage Counselling, Fixing Patterns, Restoring Mercy. My name is Masood Saeed, a psychologist, also a member of the Sharia Council in the UK, your narrator. In this talk, we will explore historical, theological, and scholarly perspectives, separating myth from authentic Islamic understanding with clarity, thoughtful reflection, and respect for knowledge. Module 1, Understanding the Problem, Real Life Analysis. Case pattern, which is, quite common in UK couples. The wife shows emotional escalation, saying things like, "You never care." The husband responds with withdrawal or defensiveness, sometimes with silence or even anger. Here's the psychological insight. According to Dr. John Gottman in his 1999 book, The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work, on page 45, this is called the demand-withdraw pattern. It's actually a major predictor of divorce. So let's talk about the mind characterization method analysis. Imagine you have a negative thought like, "I'm not valued." This thought then triggers an emotional reaction, maybe anger or hurt, and the output is usually a behavior such as criticism or withdrawal. This whole process honestly can create a feedback loop, almost like a faulty circuit that keeps repeating itself. Now, moving on to Module 2, which is all about system mapping using the mind characterization method. The first step here is to identify patterns. For example, you might notice a thought like, "He ignores me," which brings up the emotion of frustration. This often leads to a behavior such as criticism. Recognizing these patterns is really important for making positive changes. Step 2, identify the opposite pattern. When the thought is, "She attacks me," it often leads to feelings of stress. And the behavior that follows is usually withdrawal. So here's the conclusion. This isn't really a personality issue. It's actually a system misalignment. Now let's move on to Module 3, which is all about the Islamic foundation. According to the Quran, Surah Ar-Rum, chapter 30, verse 21, Allah says, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً, translated as, "And He placed between you love and mercy." So marriage really is a system built on two key principles, mawadda or love, and rahma, which means mercy. There's a beautiful hadith framework narrated in Jami at-Tirmidhi by Muhammad ibn Isa al-Tirmidhi, "Khayrukum khayrukum li ahlihi," translated as, "The best of you are those best to their families." Now let's move on to Module 4, Rewiring the Mind. So let's try a cognitive and spiritual reframe here. Instead of falling into the trap of blame, we shift towards understanding. Where there's ego, we bring in intention or niyyah. And rather than simply reacting, we turn to sabrs, patience. It's a simple but powerful way to transform how we see and respond to challenges. Now, here's a really practical technique you can use: pause, reflect, respond. First, you pause just to control your emotion. Then you take a moment to reflect. What is the real need here? And finally, you respond, aiming for calm and clear communication. It's a small habit, but it can make a world of difference in your interactions. Now, let's dive into Module 5, where we'll look at a real-life intervention example. This will help bring all these concepts together and show how they work in practice. So, before the intervention, the wife was shouting while the husband remained silent. Then, with the intervention, they practiced structured dialogue, offered emotional validation, and engaged in dhikr before the discussion. Afterwards, what we observed was a clear reduction in the intensity of their conflicts, a noticeable increase in empathy, and honestly, much better communication between them. The intervention involved a few key techniques: structured dialogue to guide the conversation, emotional validation to acknowledge each other's feelings, and importantly, making dhikr before starting the discussion. According to Dr. Sue Johnson, in her 2008 book Hold Me Tight, on page 62, emotional responsiveness is what really helps to rebuild attachment bonds. So let's move on to module 6, which is all about spiritual healing integration. All right, now let's talk about some practices. Praying salah together, making daily dua, and engaging in dhikr can really help bring us closer to a sense of peace and connection. According to the Quran, Surah Ar-Ra'd, chapter 13, verse 28, Ala bidhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub, translated as which means, verily, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. So let's move into module 7, which is all about scholarly insight. According to Imam Ibn al-Qayyim in Zad al-Ma'ad, relationships are preserved through mercy, not control. Next up, Module 8 covers the UK context, focusing on safeguarding and the law. It's essential to follow the Domestic Abuse Act 2021 here in the UK. We need to assess risk, including harm, coercion and control, and safeguard where necessary. Islamic counselling must never ignore safety. So let's just take a moment for the final model summary. Now, here's the mind characterization framework. First, identify the pattern, then diagnose the root belief. Next, rewire cognition, align with Islamic values, and finally, reinforce with behavior. And here's the final teaching point. Marriage does not fail because of people, it fails because of unmanaged patterns. When the system is corrected, mercy returns. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. To stay connected with more inspiring content, your support helps us reach more people and keep these important conversations alive. I'd love to hear your thoughts, questions, or personal experiences. Share them in the comments below. Your voice truly matters. Together, we can build a meaningful dialogue that benefits us all. Thank you for watching. May this video serve as a source of knowledge and reflection.